The revolving glass doors spun open with a sigh, and Emma Carter stepped into the marble lobby of Harrison and Company. The air smelled of espresso, ambition, and money. People moved like a current, heels clicking, badges flashing, suits cutting through space with military precision. She tightened her grip on her worn leather folder, adjusted the strap of her handbag, and whispered to herself, "You can do this." It wasn't her first job, but it felt like her first time stepping into another world. One made of glass and hierarchy. The receptionist barely looked up when Emma approached. "Hi, I'm Emma Carter. I'm the new HR intern." The woman's manicured fingers danced across the keyboard. "Elevator to the 22nd floor. HR department. Ask for Amanda Lewis." Amanda Lewis. The name had already appeared twice in her emails, both signed with a clipped tone that somehow carried disapproval through text. Emma smiled politely and thanked the receptionist, even though the woman had already moved on to another call. She walked toward the elevator, feeling the cold metal walls reflecting her face back at her. A small girl in an ocean of confidence. The doors slid open. She pressed 22. The numbers climbed. With every floor, her pulse quickened. When the doors opened, she was met by the rapid fire of keyboards, the soft hum of printers, and the clipped conversation of professionals who didn't have time for hesitation. The HR department stretched before her like a pristine battlefield. Desks in neat rows, chrome fixtures, white orchids on every corner. A voice cut through the air. "Are you the intern?" Emma turned. A tall woman stood by the glass wall of an office. Sharp navy suit, hair pulled back in a bun so tight it could cut glass. Her heels gleamed. Her nameplate read, "Amanda Lewis, Director of Human Resources." "Yes, I'm Emma," she said, smiling, trying to sound steady. Amanda didn't return the smile. "You're late." I'm sorry, I thought." "It's 8:02. Orientation started at 8. Amanda turned and strode into her office. "Follow me." Emma followed. The room was minimalist, spotless desk, a single framed certificate, a mirror instead of a painting behind the chair. It was like sitting in front of someone who never blinked. Amanda gestured for her to sit. "Here's the rule, Emma. I run this department. You assist me. That means you anticipate what I need before I ask. Coffee, reports, meeting prep, client files, staff schedules, everything. Understand?" "Yes, ma'am." "Don't call me ma'am. Makes me sound old." She finally looked up, studying Emma's clothes. A cream blouse, black skirt, sensible flats. Her lip curled slightly. "You didn't dress like that for an interview, did you?" Emma felt her cheeks burn. "No, I just wanted to be practical." Amanda waved her hand. "Save it. You'll learn. Now go to the break room. Make 2 coffees. Mine black, no sugar. 1 for Mr. Clarkson, 2 sugars, cream. And don't mix them up. You'll regret it if you do." Emma nodded, almost bowing, and hurried out. The break room smelled of burnt toast and stress. 2 employees chatted quietly by the counter but fell silent when she entered. One of them, a woman in her 30s, smiled faintly. "New?" "Yeah, HR intern." "Oh." The woman exchanged a knowing glance with her coworker. "Amanda's department." Emma didn't understand the tone until later. She made the coffees carefully, double-checking the orders, hands shaking just slightly. The elevator dinged behind her, and she heard Amanda's heels before she saw her. "You're still here," Amanda said. "It doesn't take 5 minutes to make coffee. Move." Emma rushed out, nearly spilling 1 cup. She placed them carefully on the table in Amanda's office. Amanda picked up hers, took a sip and frowned. "Too hot. Next time let it cool before you bring it in." "Yes, Ms. Lewis." Amanda turned back to her screen as if Emma had already vanished. "Close the door on your way out." Hours passed in silence, broken only by Amanda's clipped commands. "Print this. Find that file. Call the assistant to reschedule." Every order felt like a test she didn't know she was taking. Around noon, Emma finally sat down at her temporary desk near the window. A stack of onboarding forms sat in front of her. She glanced across the room. Amanda was on the phone, voice low but sharp. "Yes, I know she quit. Amanda was saying. She wasn't cut out for this place. None of them are. Emma looked down quickly, pretending not to hear. She filled out the forms, trying to ignore the knot in her chest. When lunchtime came, most people vanished in pairs or small groups. Emma stayed behind, nibbling a granola bar while scrolling through the company intranet. Photos of smiling employees, mission statements about integrity, innovation, and inclusion. Words that looked good on a brochure. A shadow fell across her desk. It was the man from the elevator, Mark. He smiled again, easy and warm. Didn't expect to see you eating alone already. Survived the morning? Barely, Emma admitted with a nervous laugh. I think I already annoyed her. Mark chuckled softly. That's a daily achievement around here. Don't take it personally. You sound like you've been through this. I've been through her. Everyone has. She's complicated. Emma tilted her head. Complicated? He shrugged. The kind of person who likes people scared. Makes her feel in control. Emma frowned. That's awful. Welcome to corporate America. They shared a small, knowing smile before Mark was called away. For a moment, she felt less alone. The rest of the day blurred into mechanical movement. Emails, phone calls, printing, more coffee. Amanda's corrections stung sharper each time. Don't staple like that. You formatted this wrong. You're not fast enough. By 5 o'clock, the office began to empty. Amanda was still typing furiously, her reflection gleaming in the glass wall. Emma hovered near the door. Should I leave now, Ms. Lewis? Amanda didn't look up. You leave when I leave. Emma hesitated, then nodded. She sat back down, pretending to work, while the minutes dragged into hours. At 7:43 p.m. Amanda finally stood. Lock up when you're done. Make sure the reports are sorted alphabetically on my desk by morning. She left without saying goodnight. When the last echo of her heels disappeared, Emma exhaled and looked around the empty office. The city lights stretched endlessly beyond the glass. Her reflection stared back. Tired eyes, hair coming loose, lipstick faded. She whispered, Day 1. Outside, New York buzzed like it never slept. Emma walked the few blocks to her apartment, the city's neon reflections flickering across puddles. She could still hear Amanda's voice in her head, sharp and constant. Too hot, too slow, too naive. At home, she dropped her bag, kicked off her shoes, and sank into the couch. Her small apartment looked nothing like the offices she'd left. Cozy, cluttered, human. On the coffee table sat a single framed photo. Her and her father, Richard Harrison, smiling in front of the same building she'd walked into that morning. He looked younger there, proud, visionary, a man who believed his company could change the world. Emma touched the glass. Dad, what happened to your dream? The phone on the table buzzed. A message popped up from a private number. How was your first day? She hesitated, then typed back. Worse than expected. You were right. The culture's broken. A pause. Then another message. Good. Keep observing. No one knows who you are. Remember why you're there. Emma stared at the words. The truth was heavier than the exhaustion in her bones. Because she wasn't just another intern. She was Emma Harrison, daughter of the founder, working under a fake last name. Her father had sent her here to see the truth from the ground level. No one in the building knew. Not even Amanda. She opened her laptop, started a new document, and typed. Day 1 report. Toxic tone from direct supervisor, Amanda Lewis. Fear-based communication style. No structured mentorship. Atmosphere of silent compliance. She stared at the blinking cursor. Then, quietly, she added. People look tired, not inspired. She saved the file under a folder titled Project Glass. The name made her smile sadly. Transparency, reflection, and fragility, all in one word. The next morning came too soon. Emma was back in the office by 7:30, hoping to impress Amanda. The woman arrived 5 minutes later and frowned. You're early. Trying to make me look bad? Emma blinked. No, I just thought. Don't think. Amanda said sharply. Just do what I ask. The hours crawled by again. At lunch, Emma overheard two employees whispering near the printer. She made Jenna cry again yesterday. I heard Jenna filed a complaint. HR shredded it. Guess who runs HR? Emma pretended to focus on her spreadsheet but listened intently. Each detail was another thread in the tapestry she was weaving. That afternoon, Amanda summoned her to the office again. We have a staff meeting tomorrow. You'll prepare the presentation slides. I'll send you the notes tonight. Yes, Ms. Lewis. Oh, and Emma? Amanda's voice turned silkier. Dangerous. Don't make me regret letting you stay after the first week. Emma nodded, forcing a smile, but her mind was already working. Every order, every insult, every glance. She was collecting them, piece by piece. That night, another report went into the folder. This time, the document had screenshots, quotes, and timestamps. Her father's plan was starting to make sense. He hadn't sent her here to observe. He'd sent her here to witness. The following week blurred into long hours and heavy silence. The office air always seemed colder when Amanda was near. Once, when Emma accidentally mixed up two meeting invites, Amanda called her into the office, shut the door and said, "Do you realize how replaceable you are? There are hundreds of interns waiting to take your seat. One mistake and you're gone." Emma held her gaze. Understood. Good. Now clean up your desk. It looks amateur. When she returned to her workstation, Mark caught her eye from across the floor. He mouthed, "You okay?" She smiled weakly. Yeah. But she wasn't. Each day was a test of patience, and each night was a confession into her private files. Still, there was a strange sense of control in her secrecy, knowing that while Amanda thought she was breaking her down, Emma was quietly gathering truth. One Thursday evening, she stayed late again, helping Amanda compile quarterly performance data. Amanda was frustrated, muttering curses under her breath. If these idiots can't even meet their quotas, they don't deserve jobs. Emma hesitated. Maybe they're overworked. Amanda's eyes snapped up. Excuse me? I just mean, maybe the deadlines are too tight. Amanda's voice dropped to a whisper so cold it burned. Listen carefully. The moment you start making excuses for mediocrity, you become part of it. This company rewards winners, not whiners. Emma looked down. Yes, Ms. Lewis. Amanda smirked, satisfied. Good girl. When Amanda finally left, Emma sat alone in the dark office, staring at the city lights again. She whispered to the reflection in the glass. We'll see who wins, Amanda. She opened her laptop. Day 14 report. Evidence of psychological harassment, verbal intimidation, public humiliation of staff, suppression of internal complaints. Her fingers trembled slightly as she typed the last line. This isn't just a toxic leader. It's a culture of fear. She pressed save, leaned back, and closed her eyes. In the silence of the office, she could almost hear her father's voice again. Calm, steady, full of belief. See it for yourself, Em. Then we'll change it together. She smiled faintly. I will. The elevator dinged in the distance, the sound echoing through the empty floor like a promise. Outside, New York's skyline shimmered. A city built on dreams, shadows, and glass. Emma didn't know it yet, but the cracks she'd begun to see were about to widen. And soon, the entire company would be forced to look at its reflection. The hum of the office air conditioning blended with the sharp clicks of keyboards and the occasional ring of a phone. It was morning again, though to Emma it felt like the same day looping endlessly. She'd barely slept. The blue glow of her laptop had kept her up through the night, her fingers typing out everything she couldn't say out loud. The reports were growing, evidence piling like quiet bricks in a wall she would one day make visible. She walked into the building early again, greeted by the same indifferent security guard, the same synthetic smile from the receptionist. When she stepped into the elevator, she met her own reflection in the mirrored walls, eyes rimmed with exhaustion, yet steady. As the doors slid open to the 22nd floor, she inhaled deeply, slipped the mask of the polite intern back on, and entered the battlefield. Amanda Lewis was already there. Of course she was. Her hair was perfect, her desk immaculate, and her tone already sharp as steel. "You're early again," she said without looking up. "I hope that means you finally learned something." Emma forced a smile. "Just trying to be prepared for the meeting later." Amanda finally glanced at her, eyes glinting like glass. "Preparedness is fine, but initiative can look like arrogance if you don't know your place. Remember that." "Yes, Ms. Lewis." Amanda smirked and returned to her screen. "Good. I need you to print the slide deck double-sided. No color ink. And don't mix the order. Last time, you nearly gave me a heart attack with that alphabetizing disaster." Emma bit her tongue, remembering how Amanda had handed her 2 misfiled pages that actually weren't hers. "I'll handle it. See that you do." The day rolled forward with mechanical cruelty. Employees drifted in. Conversations hushed as Amanda's office door swung open and shut like a guillotine. Emma worked quietly at her desk, every task executed perfectly but without thanks. Around her, she noticed the small details. The way people flinched when Amanda passed by, the stiff smiles when she made a joke, the silence that followed her laughter. At noon, the air smelled faintly of microwaved food from the break room. Emma ate at her desk, scrolling through spreadsheets. Mark appeared again, holding a coffee cup in each hand. "You look like you've been drafted into war," he said softly. "Feels like it." He handed her 1 cup. "Peace offering. No one survives HR without caffeine." She smiled genuinely this time. "Thanks. How's she treating you?" Emma hesitated, glancing toward Amanda's office. "Like she's allergic to kindness." Mark chuckled, but it was hollow. "Yeah, that's about right. She was worse last quarter. Fired 2 assistants in a month. Word is, she's untouchable, connections with the board or something." Emma sipped the coffee, studying him. "And you? You've been here a while. Why stay?" He leaned against the cubicle, voice dropping. "Because the work matters. Or at least it used to. And because not everyone at the top is like her." She tilted her head slightly. "You mean Mr. Harrison?" Mark nodded. "He built this place different. The old-timers talk about how he used to walk around the floor every Friday, talking to everyone. No titles, no fear. But he's hardly around anymore. Guess success changes people or the people under them." Emma's heart tightened. "If only you knew." By 3 p.m., the staff meeting began. Amanda stood at the head of the conference room, voice cutting through the space like a blade. "Let's begin. Performance reviews this quarter are unacceptable. Productivity dropped 6%, and client satisfaction metrics are flatlining. That's not a setback, it's a failure." She clicked through slides with the precision of a prosecutor presenting evidence. Her tone was flawless, her control absolute. Emma sat in the corner, taking notes as instructed, pretending to be invisible. When one junior manager tried to offer context about the new client load, Amanda's smile froze. "Excuses are the language of mediocrity, Brian. If your team can't handle pressure, maybe they're in the wrong company." Silence. Emma looked around, heads down, eyes averted. A few people scribbled fake notes just to avoid looking up. She felt the tension like static on her skin. When the meeting ended, Amanda lingered, basking in her own authority. She turned to Emma. "Make sure to clean up, and send out the meeting minutes in the next hour. No typos. I want them perfect." "Yes, Ms. Lewis." "Oh, and Emma." Amanda paused, her voice lowering to something that almost sounded human. "You should be careful. People watch interns closely here. The ones who last don't speak much. The ones who don't talk too much." Emma nodded slowly. "Understood. Good girl." Amanda smiled thinly and left. The phrase echoed in Emma's head long after she was gone. That night, the office emptied again, leaving only the quiet hum of the city outside. Emma worked under the sterile light of her monitor. Her notes sprawled across the desk. She reread the meeting transcript and felt a strange mix of anger and pity. Amanda wasn't just cruel. She was feeding off fear, and fear was spreading like rot. Her phone buzzed. Another message from the same private number. Progress? She typed back. Confirmed everything you suspected. Employees are intimidated into silence. HR culture built on fear. Need more time for evidence. After a moment, the reply came. Don't rush. Observe everything. People reveal who they are when they think no one's watching. She stared at the message for a long moment. Then she opened her Project Glass folder and began typing. Day 21 report. Staff morale low. Fear of management is normalized. No HR accountability. Amanda Lewis wields fear as control. Witnessed public humiliation of employee during staff meeting. She paused. Then added. Feels personal now. Harder to stay objective. The cursor blinked. The words felt too honest, but she didn't delete them. She saved the file, shut her laptop, and leaned back. The building was quiet except for the rain starting to fall against the windows. She whispered to herself, if fear runs this company, then truth will burn it clean. The following morning, the tension in the air was different. Rumors whispered through the office like smoke. Someone from the marketing department had quit, no notice, no explanation. Amanda's mood was darker than usual, her eyes sharper. She called Emma into her office within minutes of arriving. Sit. Emma obeyed. Do you know why people quit here, Emma? Amanda asked suddenly. Emma hesitated. Because they're unhappy? Amanda laughed, the sound brittle. Because they're weak. They think life is fair. They think kindness is a currency that pays rent. It's not. You survive here or you disappear. I'd hate to see you make the same mistake. Emma kept her face neutral. I'll remember that. Amanda studied her for a moment, almost suspicious. You're different. You don't cry. You don't complain. I can't decide if that's discipline or defiance. Emma met her gaze calmly. Maybe both. Amanda smiled faintly. We'll see which one breaks first. The conversation ended with a silence thick enough to suffocate. Weeks passed. Emma became a ghost in the machine, efficient, polite, invisible. Amanda began to trust her, if only in the way a tyrant trusts a loyal soldier. Emma was given access to internal files, complaint logs, and disciplinary records. That was when she found the rot in writing. There were dozens of deleted complaints, all signed by employees who'd mysteriously resigned. Each one described the same pattern. Verbal abuse, humiliation, overwork. And each one had been marked as resolved, no action needed. She printed a few copies, tucked them into a plain folder, and hid them beneath the lining of her drawer. Her heart raced as she did it. She wasn't just collecting notes anymore. She was gathering proof. That evening, she stayed long after everyone left, scrolling through more files. The fluorescent lights flickered above. The reflection in the glass showed her face. Calm, determined, no longer afraid. Then a voice behind her made her jump. Working late again? It was Mark. He leaned against the doorframe, jacket over his shoulder. Emma exhaled. You scared me. Sorry. Thought everyone left. He walked closer. You've been logging long hours lately. Everything okay? Just catching up. Mark frowned. You're careful with your words. Smart. But I can tell something's going on. Emma hesitated. For a second, she wanted to tell him everything. But she couldn't. Not yet. Just trying to survive. He nodded slowly. I get it. Just don't lose yourself doing it. This place can eat people alive. She smiled faintly. I won't. After he left, she stared out the window at the glittering skyline. Not me, she whispered. By the end of her first month, Amanda began to lean on her more, sending her to handle confidential paperwork, reviewing reports before anyone else saw them. Emma kept her tone obedient, but inside, her mind was sharp, watching, calculating. One afternoon, Amanda called her into the office again, her voice unusually calm. I'm giving you a chance to prove yourself. The board meeting next quarter. I'll need someone to compile staff evaluations. It's tedious, but it's a privilege. You'll get access to performance data and executive notes. Don't disappoint me. Emma kept her expression neutral, though her pulse raced. Thank you. I won't. As she left the office, Amanda's parting words followed like a curse. Remember, Emma, loyalty is everything. Emma smiled to herself once the door closed. It will be, she murmured. The days turned colder. The office windows reflected a winter city now. Gray skies, people rushing home with scarves wrapped tight. Emma's folder, Project Glass, grew heavier with each report. The truth she carried could topple careers. But it wasn't time yet. She needed one undeniable moment. Something that would expose Amanda before the entire company. That moment was coming. She could feel it. Amanda's arrogance was expanding. Berating managers in front of clients, reshuffling teams, and taking credit for work she didn't do. Everyone was on edge, waiting for her to fall, but too afraid to push. Emma sat in her cubicle one night, staring at Amanda's closed office door. The light inside was still on. Her voice carried faintly through the glass as she spoke on the phone. I told you the chairman's barely involved. He's old news. This place runs because of me. The sooner everyone realizes that, the better. Emma's breath caught. She pressed her phone's recorder discreetly. Amanda continued, arrogance dripping from every word. When that next round of cuts comes, I'll make sure the right people disappear. We need loyalty, not sentiment. If I have to burn the place down to rebuild it, so be it. Emma stopped recording, heart pounding. She had it, proof not just of cruelty but of corruption. She leaned back in her chair, adrenaline flooding her veins. It was almost time. The reflection in the window showed her faint smile. The quiet intern, the obedient assistant. None of them knew who she really was. Soon, the truth would come like fire through glass. She whispered into the darkness. Let's see who survives the reflection. Outside, lightning cracked across the New York skyline, its flash catching the edge of her laptop screen like the glint of a blade. And as the storm began to roll over the city, Emma opened her folder, scrolled to the bottom, and typed the final line of her report for the night. Day 45 report. Evidence of unethical leadership. Recorded conversation with Amanda Lewis confirming manipulation of staff and corporate misconduct. Preparing for exposure. Timing will be crucial. She saved the file, shut the laptop, and turned off the light. In the silence that followed, only the rain kept speaking. Steady, relentless, cleansing. The storm had passed by morning, but the sky was still the color of steel, heavy and waiting. The office lights flickered slightly when Emma arrived, the city outside veiled in gray mist. The glass walls reflected her pale face as she stepped out of the elevator, clutching her bag tighter. There was a strange silence in the air, the kind that comes before something breaks. She felt it in her bones. Amanda's door was already open. Her voice drifted out, low and sharp, cutting through the soft murmur of the floor. I don't care what the report says, Kelly. I asked for results, not excuses. There was a pause, and then the sound of a phone slamming against the desk. Emma caught a glimpse of Amanda through the glass. Perfectly still, jaw tight, eyes full of something meaner than usual. Anger looked natural on her. Emma, Amanda called suddenly, as if sensing her presence without looking. Get in here. Emma stepped inside, her pulse spiking. Yes, Ms. Lewis? Amanda gestured toward a stack of papers on her desk. Performance evaluations. I need them summarized and formatted for the board preview by tomorrow morning. I don't want errors, typos, or creative opinions. Just the numbers. You understand me? Yes. Amanda studied her for a moment, her eyes narrowing slightly. You've been quiet lately. Emma froze. Quiet? Yes. You used to look nervous. Now you just look composed. Amanda leaned back in her chair. I can't decide if that's confidence or boredom. Emma forced a polite smile. Maybe I'm just getting used to things. Don't. Amanda's voice turned icy. Comfort is death in this place. The second you think you belong, you stop fighting to prove it. I'll remember that, Emma said softly, then added. Would you like the report printed or digital? Both. Bring me the draft before you leave. Amanda waved her off, already turning back to her screen. Emma left, her heartbeat loud in her ears. There was something different in Amanda's tone, suspicion, maybe. She needed to be careful now. Too careful. At her desk, she opened the folder of evaluations. As she skimmed through them, she noticed something strange. Many of the underperforming employees Amanda had flagged were the same ones who had filed complaints. People who had spoken up, people she'd seen crying in hallways or whispering in corners. It was deliberate. The data wasn't showing failure. It was rewriting the truth. The low ratings weren't reflections of work ethic. They were punishments. She printed the files quietly, scanning each one into her encrypted folder. Another line of evidence. Another wound for Amanda's empire. The day dragged on, tense and gray. Every sound felt louder. The clatter of keyboards, the ping of incoming mail, Amanda's clipped heels against the polished floor. Around 3, Emma stepped into the break room for a moment just to breathe. The fluorescent light buzzed overhead, the coffee pot sputtered, and for once, she was alone. Or so she thought. You work too much. She turned. Mark stood by the doorway, arms crossed, that same half-smile on his face. Tired but kind. If you keep this up, you'll start dreaming in Excel sheets. Emma smiled faintly. I already do. He stepped closer. I mean it. You've changed these past few weeks. You're sharper, different. Something happened? She hesitated, eyes flicking toward the hallway. I guess I just learned fast. He leaned against the counter. That's one way to survive here. Adapt or implode. He paused. You ever think maybe you're wasting your talent? I've seen interns come and go, but you're not like them. Her chest tightened slightly. He was watching her too closely, the way her father used to, like he could see straight through to the truth. Maybe I'm just good at pretending. He studied her face for a long second. Yeah, he said quietly. Maybe you are. Before she could respond, Amanda's voice cut through the air from down the hall. Emma! She flinched. I should go. Mark sighed. Of course. But before she left, he added softly. Whatever you're doing, just be careful. Some people don't like surprises. His words lingered like static long after she returned to her desk. Amanda was waiting. Where were you? Break room. Just getting coffee. Next time ask. Amanda's tone was curt. I don't like not knowing where my team is. Yes, Ms. Lewis. Amanda eyed her suspiciously, then turned back to her screen. Closed the door. Emma obeyed, feeling the tension coil tighter. Amanda's tone shifted, oddly calm. Do you know what I like about you, Emma? Emma blinked. I don't think I do. You listen. You don't challenge me. Most people think they can win points by showing initiative, but they just make themselves targets. You've learned to stay quiet. Amanda smiled faintly. That's a rare skill. Emma forced herself to smile back. Thank you. But I also know quiet people keep secrets. Amanda's gaze sharpened. And secrets make me nervous. The silence between them felt sharp enough to cut skin. Amanda finally leaned back. Go finish the report. Emma left the office, heart hammering. Amanda suspected something. She didn't have proof yet, but she could feel the shift. The way Amanda's eyes followed her more closely now, the way she lingered when Emma spoke. It was only a matter of time before suspicion turned to action. That night, after everyone had gone, Emma stayed behind. The office was dim except for her monitor's glow. She copied the last batch of files onto a flash drive, labeling it discreetly, Harrison case. As she worked, she heard the elevator ding, unexpected at this hour. Amanda stepped out, her heels echoing like gunfire in the empty hallway. Emma froze. Still here. Amanda's voice carried through the open space. Just finishing up reports, Emma said quickly, trying to sound casual. Amanda walked closer, her silhouette sharp against the glass. Dedicated. I like that. Her tone was too smooth. Mind if I take a look? Emma's fingers hovered over her keyboard. Of course not. Amanda walked around the desk, peering at the monitor. The open file showed harmless numbers, formatted neatly. She smiled. Efficient. Emma exhaled slowly. Just trying to keep up. Amanda leaned closer, her perfume sharp, her voice lowering to a whisper. You're a curious one, though, aren't you? I see your login times. Late nights. Accessing files from departments that don't concern you. Emma's pulse spiked. They were cross-referenced reports. For the evaluation summary. Amanda smiled, but her eyes were ice. You're clever. I like clever. But clever can be dangerous if it forgets who's in charge. Emma met her gaze steady. I know who's in charge. Good. Amanda's smile widened. Keep it that way. She walked away, the sound of her heels fading into the corridor. When the elevator doors closed, Emma sagged forward, trembling. Amanda knew, or at least she suspected enough to start digging. Time was running out. She packed her things, hid the flash drive deep in her bag, and left. Outside, the rain had stopped, but the streets glistened, reflecting the city's neon pulse. She walked fast, her reflection darting in and out of puddles, her thoughts louder than the traffic. She had enough evidence now to expose Amanda, maybe the entire HR department, but she couldn't act too soon. One wrong move, and Amanda would destroy her before she ever reached the boardroom. At home, she plugged the flash drive into her personal laptop. The folders glowed on the screen: data, emails, audio recordings. She replayed the conversation she'd captured days earlier. Amanda's voice, dripping with arrogance. The chairman's old news. This place runs because of me. She saved the file under a new title, Leverage. Her phone buzzed again with a message from the private number. Status? She typed quickly. She's getting suspicious. I have everything we need, but I need access to the board meeting schedule. A moment later, the reply came. You'll have it. Stay calm. You're almost there. She stared at the screen. Almost there. But what did there even mean anymore? The plan had started as an investigation, a way to see how far the company had drifted from her father's dream. Now it felt like war. And Emma wasn't sure she was the same person who'd walked through those glass doors weeks ago. The next morning, Amanda was already waiting at her desk, a thin smile curling her lips. Sleep well, intern? Emma froze. Yes. Why? Oh, no reason. Amanda tapped her pen on the desk. I had a strange email this morning. Someone accessed restricted HR archives last night. The system logs were vague, though, almost like someone tried to cover their tracks. She looked up. You wouldn't know anything about that, would you? Emma met her gaze evenly. No, Ms. Lewis. Amanda studied her for a long, dangerous moment. Then she smiled again. That smile that said she didn't believe you but wasn't ready to prove it. Good. Because if I ever catch someone betraying my trust, I'll make sure they regret it. Permanently. Emma nodded, her voice steady even as her stomach churned. Understood. Run along then. Bring me the updated data sheets by noon. As Emma turned to leave, Amanda added, almost casually, Oh, and Emma, you might want to delete any personal projects you're working on. Company policy forbids private documentation of internal operations. Emma froze for half a second, just enough for Amanda to notice. She forced a small smile. Of course, I'll review everything. Amanda's grin widened. Good girl. When Emma reached her desk, her hands were shaking. Amanda had been in her system. Maybe not enough to see everything, but enough to smell danger. She needed to move fast. Get the file somewhere safe, out of the building, out of Amanda's reach. That evening, she met Mark in the lobby. He looked exhausted, tie loosened, eyes shadowed. Rough day? You could say that, she murmured. Want to talk about it? She shook her head. Not yet. He hesitated, then handed her a small envelope. You dropped this earlier. Her heart skipped. She hadn't dropped anything. But when she looked inside later, in the quiet of her apartment, she found a note in neat handwriting. She knows. Be careful who you trust. Her blood went cold. No signature. No clue who sent it. She stared at the paper for a long time, the room silent except for the hum of her laptop. Someone in the company knew what she was doing. Someone other than Amanda. Maybe watching. Maybe helping. Either way, the game had changed. She opened her laptop and added a new line to her hidden document. Day 57 report. Subject aware of investigation. Possible data breach. Unknown party has intervened. She knows note. Must accelerate plan. Exposure imminent. She closed the laptop and leaned back, exhaustion washing over her. For the first time since she started, she was scared. Not of Amanda, but of what she might have unleashed. The city outside pulsed with restless light, reflected in her window like a heartbeat. Emma pressed her fingers to the glass and whispered, "It's almost time, Dad." She didn't know that, on the other side of the city, Amanda was making her own call. Her voice was low, careful. "Yes, find out everything about the intern. I don't care how. Family, background, school, everything. I want to know who she really is." The storm outside the office wasn't weather this time. It was war, and it was coming for both of them. Rain drummed against the tall glass walls of Harrison and Company, streaking the skyline into blurs of gray and silver. The city below pulsed with the restless rhythm of a Thursday afternoon. Horns and voices tangled in the wet air. Inside, the hum of the office was quieter than usual, as if the storm had pressed its weight against every wall. Emma sat at her desk, pretending to focus on the spreadsheet in front of her, but her eyes kept drifting to the reflection in the glass. Amanda, pacing her office like a predator waiting to strike. The last 48 hours had been a slow collapse of calm. Amanda had called an emergency audit of system access, demanding full logs of every employee who'd touched HR data in the past month. Her tone in the meeting had been sharp, her smile thin, but her eyes, they'd been hunting for someone. Emma could feel them even when Amanda wasn't looking directly at her. Every time their gazes met, Emma's stomach twisted, but she didn't look away. To look away would be to admit something. The email came at 10:07 a.m. Mandatory HR compliance review. All employees are required to verify account credentials and recent system access. A security measure, Amanda said. A safety check. But Emma knew what it really was. A trap. She moved slowly, methodically, clearing browser history, shifting hidden folders, encrypting the files again under new names. Every keystroke felt like stepping through a minefield. Her reflection in the screen looked calm, but her pulse was drumming like rain against glass. "Hey!" She looked up. Mark leaned against the cubicle wall, holding 2 coffees. His expression was easy, but his voice was low. "You okay? You look like you're about to be audited by God himself." "Feels about right," she murmured, forcing a smile. He set 1 coffee down in front of her. "You've been tense for days. What's going on?" She hesitated, eyes flicking toward Amanda's office. The blinds were half closed, shadows moving behind them. "I can't talk here." Mark frowned. "Then where?" "After work. Near Bryant Park." He studied her face for a moment, then nodded. "Okay." When he left, Emma exhaled, her hands trembling around the coffee cup. It was risky, telling him anything. But after the note in the envelope, she couldn't afford silence anymore. Someone knew. And if that someone wasn't Mark, she needed to find out who it was before Amanda did. The day dragged forward. Amanda's office door opened and closed dozens of times. People went in looking pale and came out quieter. Rumors whispered through the cubicles. Something about an internal investigation, maybe even terminations. Emma kept her head down, typing numbers, watching, waiting. At 5, the storm outside had thickened into sheets of rain. The city blurred into 1,000 silver lines. When the clock hit 6:30, Emma shut down her computer, slipped her bag over her shoulder, and left. She didn't look back, though she could feel Amanda's eyes on her through the glass wall. Bryant Park glowed under the rain. Neon signs reflected on puddles, and the faint sound of jazz drifted from a cafe nearby. Mark was already there, sitting under an awning, jacket damp, a paper cup steaming in his hands. "You came," he said when she approached. "I said I would." He smiled faintly. "You sound like someone in a spy movie." "Maybe I am." The joke died quickly between them. They sat for a moment, listening to the rain hiss against the pavement. Then Emma said, quietly, Amanda's investigating me. Mark froze. What? She knows someone's been accessing restricted files. She hasn't said my name yet, but she's closing in. He stared at her. Why would you even? He stopped, searching her face. Emma, what are you doing here, really? She met his eyes, and for the first time, she didn't hide behind the mask. I'm not just an intern, Mark. I came to Harrison and Company to find out what happened to this place. To the people. To the values it was built on. He frowned. You sound like you've got personal stakes in this. I do. How personal? She hesitated. Then she said it. My name isn't Emma Carter. She took a breath. It's Emma Harrison. The words hung in the air like thunder. Mark blinked, confused. Harrison, as in? Yes. She looked down. Richard Harrison is my father. He sat back, stunned. The rain filled the silence. I came in under another name because he wanted to know what really goes on here, she continued. He built this company to be fair, to give people a place where talent mattered more than politics. But somewhere along the way, people like Amanda turned it into something else. He couldn't see it from the boardroom, so he sent me here, to see what it feels like from the bottom. Mark let out a slow breath, shaking his head. Jesus, Emma, that's insane. Yeah, tell me about it. You're risking everything. If Amanda finds out, she's already close, but I can't stop now. Not when I've seen what she's done. The firings, the humiliation, the lies. Mark stared at her, torn between disbelief and awe. You're serious? I have proof, she said quietly. Documents. Recordings. Enough to bring her down. Then go to the board. Go to your father. I can't. Not yet. She leaned forward. I need one final piece. She's covering something bigger than abuse. I've seen glimpses of falsified numbers, performance scores tied to layoffs that never made sense. It's not just cruelty, it's corruption. Mark's voice dropped. If you're right, she could ruin you before you ever get the chance to expose her. I know. The rain softened. The park lights flickered in the mist, casting gold halos around every puddle. For a moment, the world seemed to hold still. Mark finally said, whatever you're planning, you're not doing it alone. Emma met his gaze. You don't have to. I'm already in, he said. Someone has to have your back. She smiled, small, tired, grateful. Then we move fast. Before she moves first. Amanda didn't sleep that night. She sat in her penthouse apartment, the glow of her laptop washing her face pale. The private investigator's report was half finished, but it had already given her enough to know she'd been right to dig. Emma Carter didn't exist. Not in any database that mattered. Her background check was paper-thin. A temporary address, unverifiable school records, no credit history before 3 months ago. Too clean, too quiet. Amanda's lips curled into a smile. Got you, she whispered. She poured herself a glass of wine, leaned back, and stared at the skyline. The thought of betrayal made her pulse quicken, but not with fear, with excitement. She'd been in control of this company's power structure for years, bending rules, pulling strings, shaping careers and ending others. But if someone had dared to infiltrate her domain to spy on her, that was sport. She picked up her phone and dialed a number. It's me. I need every piece of data on the intern calling herself Emma Carter. And pull security footage from every floor for the past month. Don't ask questions. Just do it. When she hung up, she turned to the window and smirked at her own reflection. Let's see who you really are. The next morning, the tension in the office was suffocating. Amanda's door stayed closed for hours, blinds drawn. Employees moved quietly, whispering like children afraid to wake a sleeping monster. Emma tried to keep her routine normal, but her hands were trembling when she typed. Every sound made her flinch, the ding of an elevator, the buzz of a phone. She felt watched, hunted. Around noon, her inbox pinged with a calendar invite. Private meeting, Amanda Lewis, 1:30 p.m. Her throat went dry. At 1:28, she stood outside Amanda's office, forcing her breathing to slow. When the door opened, Amanda's smile was sweet as poison. "Come in, Emma." The blinds were half closed, sunlight slicing the room into cold strips of gold. Amanda gestured toward the chair across from her desk. "Sit." Emma sat. Amanda's voice was soft, almost kind. "You've been doing interesting work." Emma's stomach twisted. "Thank you." Dedicated. Discreet. But maybe too curious. "I just want to learn." Amanda leaned forward. "Oh, I think you've learned plenty. Like how to access secured files. How to encrypt them. How to lie about who you are." Emma froze. Amanda smiled slowly. "Don't bother denying it." "I know. Emma Carter. Cute name. But I've been in this game too long to be fooled by a fake intern. Tell me, Emma, or whatever your name is, who sent you?" The air felt thin. Amanda's voice hardened. "Was it the board? One of the shareholders? Or maybe someone higher?" Emma met her gaze. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Try me." "My father," Emma said softly. Amanda blinked. Then she laughed. Sharp, incredulous. "Your father?" "Yes, Richard Harrison." The laughter stopped. Amanda's eyes widened, the color draining from her face. For a second, the mask cracked. Then it came back, tighter, angrier. "You expect me to believe the chairman's daughter's been fetching my coffee for the past 2 months?" "Yes," Emma said quietly. "He wanted to know what this company had become." Amanda stood abruptly, pacing. "You arrogant little—" She stopped herself, breathing hard. Then she turned, smiling coldly. "Well, congratulations. You've seen it. Now what? You think you'll run to Daddy and ruin me?" Emma rose from her chair. "No. You ruined yourself." Amanda's voice dropped to a whisper. "Careful, sweetheart. You don't know what I'm capable of." Emma met her eyes, calm now. "No, I think I do." For a moment, they stood there, predator and prey, though neither looked certain who was which anymore. Amanda smiled again, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You're finished here. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out." Emma didn't move. "You'll regret that." Amanda's smile faltered. "Excuse me?" "Because when the board sees what I've collected, you won't have an office to stand in." Amanda's voice rose. "You're bluffing. Check your email." Amanda frowned, turning to her computer. She clicked once, then froze. The folder on her screen opened to a series of attachments. Recordings, documents, screenshots. Every cruelty, every falsified report, every manipulation. Right there in her inbox. Her face went pale. "How?" Emma picked up her bag. "You taught me well." Amanda's voice trembled with rage. "You don't know what you've done." "Oh," Emma said softly. "I do." She turned and walked out before Amanda could speak again. The entire office watched as Emma crossed the floor. Silent, composed, unafraid. No one dared move. The elevator doors closed behind her with a quiet finality. Amanda stood frozen for nearly a minute before she moved. Her hands shook as she slammed the laptop shut. For the first time in years, fear rippled through her like cold water. She grabbed her phone, dialing frantically. "Richard, we need to talk." But the voice on the other end wasn't Richard Harrison. It was his assistant. "I'm sorry, Ms. Lewis. Mr. Harrison's in a board meeting right now, reviewing internal reports." Amanda's breath caught. "What reports?" "The ones his daughter submitted." The line went dead. Outside, the rain had stopped. The sky had cracked open into pale gold, the city gleaming like glass after fire. Emma walked down the street, wind in her hair, the noise of traffic distant. For the first time in weeks, she felt weightless. Not safe, not yet, but free. Her phone buzzed. A message from her father. "Proud of you. Come home. We'll finish this together." She smiled faintly, slipped the phone into her pocket, and kept walking. Behind her, on the 22nd floor of Harrison and Company, Amanda Lewis stared at her reflection in the dark window. The city looked back like a mirror she couldn't escape. And for the first time, she realized she was the one being watched all along. The boardroom was colder than usual. Even the air seemed to hesitate before moving. The walls of glass stretched high over Manhattan, the skyline etched in pale morning light. 12 people sat around the long oak table, each one older, sharper, quieter than the next. The clock above the doorway ticked with the slow authority of inevitability. At the head of the table sat Richard Harrison, his silver hair perfectly combed, expression unreadable. The years had not softened him. If anything, they'd carved him deeper. The man who had built an empire with his own hands now sat as still as marble. His daughter sat beside him, no longer the anonymous intern but the storm that had torn open the ceiling. Emma's palms rested flat against the polished table, the glass reflection of her eyes mixing with the city beyond. She could see Amanda in her peripheral vision, standing near the opposite end. Even from across the room, the energy between them vibrated like an electric current. Amanda was composed, impeccably dressed, face neutral, but her eyes were restless. Her kingdom was burning, and she knew it. "Ms. Lewis?" the chairman began, voice calm but laced with ice. "You requested this emergency session." Amanda nodded. "Yes, I did." She glanced briefly at Emma, then back to the board. "I believe there has been a misunderstanding and a severe breach of trust." Richard leaned forward. "Then explain it." Amanda inhaled, smoothing the front of her blazer. "For months, I've managed this company's HR operations with full transparency. I've maintained structure, discipline, and accountability. I have nothing to hide." Her voice was even practiced. "But I recently discovered that one of our interns, someone under a false identity, was accessing confidential employee records and manipulating data to create the illusion of misconduct." A murmur rippled through the boardroom. Emma's jaw tightened. Amanda continued, her words sharp as needles. "This so-called intern is, in fact, your daughter, Mr. Harrison. She infiltrated my department under false pretenses, violated multiple security protocols, and fabricated a narrative of abuse that does not exist. Her actions have not only humiliated me but jeopardized the integrity of this entire corporation." Richard's gaze shifted slowly to Emma. The silence was unbearable. "Is that true?" Emma's heartbeat thundered in her chest, but her voice came steady. "I used an alias, yes, but nothing I found was fabricated. Everything I've presented is real. The evidence speaks for itself." Amanda laughed softly, a sound like breaking glass. "Evidence? You mean the cherry-picked quotes and doctored documents? You think the board will take the word of a 24-year-old spy over 2 decades of proven leadership?" Emma met her eyes. "They won't need to take my word for it." She reached for the laptop in front of her, fingers trembling slightly, and opened the file. The screen lit the room with its pale glow. Then, one by one, the recordings played, the sharp sting of Amanda's voice filling the air. "If she doesn't stay late, I'll make sure she's gone by next quarter. We don't need fairness. We need control. The chairman's old news. This company runs because of me." Each line hit like a bullet. The boardroom sat frozen, faces unreadable. Amanda's color drained as she stared at the screen. "That," she stammered, "that could have been edited." Richard raised a hand, stopping her cold. "Enough." His voice was soft, but it silenced the room. "We will review this evidence privately. For now, you may step outside." Amanda blinked. "You're dismissing me?" "I'm giving you the courtesy of leaving before this becomes formal." Her jaw clenched, her hands curling into fists. For a moment, Emma thought she might explode. But Amanda only straightened her jacket, forcing a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Of course," she said quietly. "I'll be right outside." When she was gone, the air felt lighter and heavier all at once. Richard turned to his daughter. "You've done something extraordinary, Emma." She met his gaze, wary. "Then why do you sound disappointed?" "Because you shouldn't have had to." The words landed softly but carried weight. He looked around the table. "This company was built on principles. Honor, honesty, respect. If what my daughter uncovered is true, then we've betrayed all of them." One of the older board members spoke up, his tone cautious. "And if it isn't true?" Richard looked back at Emma. Then she's just risked her career, her reputation, and my trust. Emma said quietly, "You already know the answer, Dad." He studied her for a long time, then nodded. "We'll see it through. But understand this, Emma. Truth isn't enough. You're fighting power. And power doesn't lose quietly." Amanda didn't go far. She stood outside the boardroom, pacing like a caged animal. Through the glass wall, she could see their shadows moving inside. Every second felt like a countdown. Her phone buzzed in her hand. A message from her private contact. Footage retrieved. Sending now. Her lips parted in relief. She opened the link. Security footage from a week ago. Emma sitting at a computer late at night, copying files to a flash drive. Amanda's eyes gleamed. Perfect. When the door finally opened, she stepped forward before anyone could speak. "Before you proceed with your accusations," she said smoothly, "you might want to see this." She connected her phone to the projector. The video flickered onto the screen. Emma, alone in the office transferring files. "There," Amanda said triumphantly. "Unauthorized access. Proof that she broke into secured archives." The board members exchanged uneasy glances. Emma stared at the screen, then said quietly, "Play the rest of it." Amanda frowned. "That's all I need." "Play it," Emma said again, louder this time. Amanda hesitated, then fast-forwarded the footage. The timestamp rolled forward, showing Emma finishing the transfer. Then, a second later, the door opened. Amanda herself entering the office, speaking into her phone, unaware the camera was still recording. "If anyone finds out about the redundancy cuts, I'll bury them before they bury me. The chairman doesn't even know yet. Idiot doesn't check his own reports." The silence that followed was suffocating. Amanda froze, realization dawning too late. Emma's voice was calm. "You should have checked your own security footage before using it." Amanda's composure shattered. "You little..." "Ms. Lewis." Richard's voice cut like a blade. "Leave this building immediately." Amanda's face twisted. "You think you can erase me? I made this company run. You need me." "No," he said softly. "We needed decency, and you sold it for control." Amanda's voice rose, desperate now. "She's manipulating you. She's just a child pretending to be righteous." Emma stood, her tone steady but filled with fire. "No, I'm your mirror, Amanda. Everything you've done to others you finally see reflected back." Amanda stared at her for a long, furious moment, then grabbed her bag and stormed out, the door slamming behind her. The echo lingered long after she was gone. The room sat in silence until Richard exhaled. Meeting adjourned. Emma's body sagged with exhaustion. She hadn't realized until then how much of herself she'd been holding in. Her father stood and rested a hand on her shoulder. "You did it." She nodded weakly. "She'll come back." "I know," he said. "But next time, she won't find the same company waiting for her." He turned toward the window, staring out at the city. "We rebuild from here, cleanly." Emma followed his gaze. The city shimmered beneath the clouds. Restless, endless, alive. "It's not over, Dad." He glanced at her. "No," he said quietly. "It never really is." Amanda didn't disappear. Not completely. That evening, her apartment lights burned late into the night. Boxes of files, flash drives, and printed reports littered the floor. She moved like a woman possessed, muttering under her breath as she pieced together what was left of her career. "They think they can bury me," she whispered. "They think they can humiliate me and move on. But I know things they don't." Her reflection stared back from the window, hard, dangerous. The city lights shimmered in her eyes like fire. "If they want war," she said, "I'll give them one." She picked up her phone and dialed. "Yes," she said when the voice answered. "It's Amanda. I have a proposition. About Harrison and Company. And about the girl." She smiled thinly. "Let's just say I'm ready to talk." The next morning, Emma woke to sunlight for the first time in weeks. Her apartment felt still, her mind raw but clear. She stood by the window with her coffee, watching the city come alive again. Somewhere deep inside, a fragile peace began to form. but peace built on broken foundations rarely lasts. Her phone buzzed with a message from Mark. "Congratulations. The office is buzzing. They're calling you the whistleblower hero." She smiled faintly. "Heroes don't make enemies this powerful," she replied. "Then you're not done," he texted back. "No," she wrote. "Not yet." At that exact moment, in another part of the city, Amanda sat in a high-rise conference room across from a rival firm's CEO, sliding a flash drive across the table. "Everything you need to dismantle Harrison and Company from the inside," she said softly. "And in return, I want one thing." The CEO arched an eyebrow. "And that is?" "Emma Harrison's career," she said. "I want her erased." That night, the city hummed beneath the rain again. Emma sat at her desk, staring at the glowing reports her father had asked her to review. Plans for restructuring, initiatives to restore transparency, new employee protections. Should have felt like victory. Didn't. She could still feel Amanda's presence lingering like smoke. People like her didn't vanish, they evolved. And deep down, Emma knew this wasn't finished. Her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. A familiar voice spoke, low and smooth. "You thought it was over, didn't you?" "Amanda." Emma's pulse spiked. "What do you want?" "I just wanted to congratulate you," Amanda said. "You played well. But you should know something, dear, you're not the only one who knows how to dig." "What are you talking about?" Amanda chuckled softly. "Check tomorrow's headlines. Let's see how the world feels about a chairman who sends his daughter undercover to spy on his own employees." The line went dead. Emma's heart froze. She stared out the window as thunder rolled across the skyline. The war had just changed shape. By morning, the news had broken. Harrison and Co. Scandal. Chairman's daughter implicated in secret investigation. Every network, every headline, every feed. The story spread like wildfire. Half-truths and lies twisted into spectacle. Some called her brave. Others called her deceitful. The company's stocks dropped 6% before noon. Inside the office, whispers filled the halls. Faces that once looked at her with gratitude now looked away. Her father summoned her. His face was pale, his jaw tight. "She's striking back." Emma nodded, voice quiet. "I know. She has data, old correspondence, board notes. Things that can be taken out of context. She's trying to burn us both." He sighed. Heavy. "Then we hold the line. We don't hide. We don't lie. We show them the truth again." She met his eyes. "Then let me finish what I started." He hesitated. "Emma, this isn't your fight anymore." "Yes, it is." He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time he didn't see the intern or the investigator. He saw the woman standing in the storm he once built. "Then finish it," he said softly. She nodded once and turned toward the window, the city gleaming below. The reflection showed her face and, faintly behind it, the ghost of Amanda Lewis. The war wasn't about files anymore. It was about legacy, truth, and survival. And neither woman planned to lose. The morning the world turned on her, New York looked colder. Not gray, not blue, just cold. The kind of cold that creeps in under your skin and stays. Emma walked through the lobby of Harrison and Company as phones rang. Screens flashed, and every conversation paused when she passed. Her name was everywhere. The intern, the spy, the chairman's daughter. Every whisper carried pieces of her, twisted and sharp. She kept walking. She had learned long ago that fear loses its grip when you keep moving. The elevator ride to the top floor was silent except for the hum of cables and her own heartbeat. When the doors opened, Richard Harrison was waiting, standing by the window that looked out over the city he'd built from scratch. The light behind him made him seem almost ghostly, like a man from another time. "They're calling for my resignation," he said without turning. "I know. They've already suspended trading for 2 hours. PR says we have 12 hours before the damage becomes irreversible." Emma stepped closer. "And Amanda?" He looked at her finally. His eyes were tired, but not broken. "She's enjoying the show. I can end it." He frowned. By fighting her again? By telling the truth again? He sighed. The truth doesn't always save you, Emma. Sometimes it just burns slower. Then let it burn. He studied her, seeing something in her that startled him. A calm he didn't recognize. A strength that hadn't come from him but from what she'd survived. You've become someone I barely know. Maybe that's a good thing. The silence between them was long, heavy with the ghosts of everything they hadn't said. About the company, about her mother, about the weight of legacy neither of them had asked for. Then, without another word, she turned toward the door. The boardroom was waiting. Cameras, reporters, employees lining the glass hallway like spectators at an execution. Emma walked through them, her heels clicking against the polished floor, every step measured. Her reflection followed beside her. A mirror of the woman she had been and the one she was becoming. Inside, the press conference lights were harsh. Reporters shouted her name. Emma, did you spy on your father's employees? Was the investigation illegal? Are you the real reason Harrison and Company is collapsing? She stood behind the podium, heart pounding but hands steady. The microphones glittered like 1,000 eyes. My name is Emma Harrison, she said clearly. The room quieted. Yes, I went undercover in this company. I worked as an intern under a false name. I witnessed harassment, manipulation, and fear. And I documented everything because silence is worse than scandal. Silence is rot. The flashbulbs popped. Her father watched from the side, expression unreadable. I did what I did because I believed in what this company was supposed to be. I believed in my father's dream, and I still do. Harrison and Company was built on the idea that people matter more than numbers. Somewhere along the way, we forgot that. I didn't expose this place to destroy it. I did it to save it. A reporter shouted. Save it? You've cost it millions. Emma nodded. Maybe, but maybe integrity has a price. Maybe the truth is supposed to hurt before it heals. The murmurs began again, softer this time, less like judgment and more like thought. And to the employees who felt small, unseen, afraid. I'm sorry. You deserved better. You still do. Her throat tightened, but she kept her voice steady. I'll accept whatever comes next. But I won't apologize for caring. She stepped back from the podium. The flashes came again, blinding and relentless. But for the first time, she didn't flinch. That evening, the storm that had threatened all day finally broke. Rain hammered the windows as the city blurred into watercolor light. Emma sat in her father's office, the air thick with exhaustion. He was on the phone with investors, his tone calm but weary. When he hung up, he said quietly, "They'll stabilize. Slowly. You did what I couldn't." She looked at him. "What's that?" "Told the truth." She gave a tired smile. "Maybe that's all I've ever been good at." He walked to the window, watching the rain. "You know, when your mother died, I thought I had to build something immortal so I wouldn't lose everything. But I forgot that people are mortal, that they break." Emma stood beside him. "You didn't lose her by building this company. You lost her by forgetting why you started." He nodded, eyes glistening faintly. "And you remembered for both of us." They stood there together, watching the city lights ripple on the wet glass. Somewhere below, sirens wailed. Taxis hissed through puddles. Life moved on. Amanda's name disappeared from the headlines within days. The rival firm she'd sold information to used her, then discarded her. She was last seen leaving a midtown hotel, sunglasses hiding her face. There were rumors she tried to start her own consultancy, that she moved west, that she still carried a folder marked Harrison. But no one could prove it. Emma didn't hate her. Not anymore. Hate was heavy, and Emma had carried enough weight. Sometimes she imagined Amanda sitting alone somewhere, staring at her reflection and realizing too late that control and happiness had never been the same thing. One afternoon, months later, the HR department held a staff meeting in the same room where Amanda had once ruled by fear. Now laughter filled the space. The orchids had been replaced with small green plants that looked less like decorations and more like hope. Emma walked in quietly, wearing a simple black blazer, hair tied back. The conversations hushed, But this time it wasn't fear. It was respect. Mark was there too, grinning as she passed. Still saving the world one policy at a time? Trying to. He leaned closer. You know, they're naming the new mentorship program after you. She blinked. What? He laughed. The Emma Harrison Fellowship. It's supposed to fund internships that don't involve making coffee or surviving trauma. She smiled. A small, genuine thing that reached her eyes. That's nice. It's right, he said. She looked around at the people chatting, working, living. It was still an office. It still had politics, ambition, exhaustion. But it breathed now, felt human again. Later that night, she left the building alone. The lobby was quiet except for the hum of the air conditioning. Outside, the city glowed gold and silver. She walked to the sidewalk and stopped by the massive glass facade of the building. The reflection showed her standing in front of the Harrison logo. Her father's name, her legacy, and now her burden. For a long time, she just stood there, watching herself through the glass. The rain had left faint streaks down the surface, like veins of light. Behind her, footsteps echoed softly. She turned to see her father approaching, coat over his arm. Heading home? Eventually, he looked at her reflection too. You've changed this place, Emma. She shook her head. No, I just made everyone see what was already broken. And that's what change really is, he said. They stood side by side, their reflections overlapping on the glass. You know, he said quietly, when I first built this company, I wanted it to outlast me. But now I think it doesn't have to. It just has to stay honest. She looked at him. And if it doesn't? He smiled sadly. Then maybe you'll build something better. She leaned against the glass, the city shimmering around her. Do you ever wonder what Mom would think of all this? He was quiet for a moment. She'd be proud. Not of me. Of you. A soft wind brushed against them, carrying the faint scent of rain and asphalt and something new. That night, Emma went home and opened her laptop one last time. The folder project glass still sat on her desktop, filled with months of reports, recordings, and notes. She opened the first document, the one she'd written her first night on the job. The words blinked back at her. Day 1 report. Toxic tone from direct supervisor. Fear-based communication style. People look tired, not inspired. She smiled faintly, then scrolled to the very bottom and typed the final entry. Final report. The glass was never broken. It was just dirty. Took time, pain, and light to see through it again. People can change. So can companies. Fear doesn't build legacies. Compassion does. She saved the file, closed the laptop, and sat in the quiet. Outside, the moonlight brushed against her window, reflected in 100 other windows across the skyline. For the first time, she felt peace, not because she'd won, but because she'd stopped running. The city hummed below, endless and alive. Somewhere, a siren faded into distance. Somewhere, someone laughed. Emma stood, poured herself a glass of water, and looked out at the world she'd helped reshape. The same glass towers that once felt like prisons now glowed like lanterns. Transparent. Honest. She thought about Amanda, about her father, about every person who had ever been told to stay quiet. She thought about the girl she'd been. Tired, humiliated, angry, and the woman she'd become. Then, softly, almost like a prayer, she whispered, "It's over." And it was. The reflection in the window smiled back at her. Not the intern, not the spy, not the chairman's daughter, just Emma. Just herself. The city outside glittered, and for the first time, it felt like it was breathing with her.